Have you ever stopped to think about what digital security is going to look like when we have quantum computers everywhere? I mean, they're supposed to be able to just crack all the encryption we use today.
That's pretty wild.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, researchers are already working on ways to keep things secure even in a quantum world.
Totally.
And that's what we're going to dive into today, quantum signatures.
Very cool.
Our guide for this deep dive is an essay by Jargo Schneepat titled Quantensignaturen, Zukunftssicher digitale Sicherheit, which basically translates to quantum signatures.
Yeah.
Future-proof digital security.
Catchy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very straightforward.
So this essay, it really dives into how these quantum signatures work, and instead of just depending on really hard math problems, which, by the way, quantum computers might just blow right through.
Right.
These signatures use, well, get this, the laws of physics to create security.
So, no more tricky algorithms. It's all about physics now.
You got it.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, we're talking about quantum stuff here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of our listeners have at least heard about some of the, let's be honest, really weird phenomena in quantum mechanics.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like superposition, right?
Okay, so superposition, think of it like this. A quantum bit, or qubit, can be in multiple states at the same time. It's not just the zero or one, like a regular bit.
Right.
It's more like, have you ever heard of Schrodinger's cat?
Oh, yeah. That's the one where the cat's both alive and dead until you open the box, right?
Exactly. A qubit is kind of like that cat. It's in all these different states at once until you actually measure it.
Okay, so that's already pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But how does this actually play into quantum signatures?
All right, well, buckle up, because we're about to add another layer of quantum weirdness. It's called entanglement. Basically, you take two of these qubits and you link them together. Now, the really trippy part, when you change one of these entangled qubits, the other one changes instantly, no matter how far apart they are.
Entanglement. Spooky action at a distance, right?
Yeah.
Still kind of freaks me out. But, okay, how does all this turn into a digital signature that's supposed to be super secure?
All right, so picture this. Alice wants to send a message to Bob. A really secure message.
Okay. Classic Alice and Bob.
Right. So she uses the special device to entangle a bunch of qubit pairs. She keeps one qubit from each pair and sends the other one over to Bob. This creates a shared secret key between them.
Clever.
Now, Alice can use her qubits to encode the message and her signature. Bob can then use his set of qubits to check if the message is legit. And here's the kicker. If anyone tries to mess with the message or the signature even just a tiny bit, it disrupts that delicate entangled state. Alice and Bob would instantly know something's up.
Well, it's like if you tried to forge someone's signature by changing the actual ink molecules, right?
Exactly. It's practically impossible.
So quantum signatures, they sound pretty amazing, like a whole new level of digital security.
They have crazy potential, but there are some big questions about what they could mean for the real world, especially when you think about things like e-governance and international relations.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds a little too good to be true, to be honest. What are some of the concerns that Schneepat brings up in his essay?
Well, one thing that Schneepat really gets into is the privacy angle.
Oh, yeah. Like, what happens to our privacy if nothing digital can really be faked or tampered with anymore?
Right, exactly. Like, could this lead to a world where everything we do online is permanently recorded and can be traced back to us? I mean, just imagine every digital interaction, every message, every transaction permanently etched in the quantum ledger.
Kind of a scary thought, to be honest. I mean, that level of surveillance could be pretty easily misused.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And Schneepat really doesn't shy away from those tough questions either. He brings up the possibility of this tech being used for some seriously bad stuff. Like, imagine disinformation campaigns, but on a whole other level. A bad actor could create fake news or propaganda and use a quantum signature to make it look totally legit. How do you even fight that?
Yeah, that is pretty terrifying. I mean, if people can't even trust that the information they're seeing online is real, it could lead to some serious chaos.
Definitely. So while this technology could usher in this crazy secure future, there are definitely some really big ethical questions to address. Schneepat seems to be arguing that we need to be thinking about these issues now, before it's too late.
I think he's got a point. It's kind of like we're standing at this fork in the road. On one hand, the potential for security is really appealing, especially with all the cyber threats out there. But on the other hand, the possibility for things to go wrong is pretty huge. So where do we even go from here?
Well, Schneepat suggests that we need to move forward cautiously but optimistically. We need to embrace what this technology could do, but be super mindful of the potential downsides. He actually stresses how important it is for scientists, policymakers, and the public to work together so we can use this technology responsibly.
That's a tall order. But I think he's right. It sounds like Schneppat's basically calling on everyone to be engaged and informed as this technology develops. We need to understand the benefits and the risks, and we got to make sure our voices are heard when it comes to how it gets used.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Schneppat's essay is a really good reminder that whenever we're dealing with technology, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It affects the real world, and we need to make sure it's used for good.
So what would you say is the main takeaway for our listeners? What do we do with all this new knowledge about quantum signatures?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? It feels like we're at a turning point. Schneppat's essay, it doesn't have all the answers, but it definitely highlights, like, how we need to be really careful moving forward with this. We got to balance the good with the bad, you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's like, remember the early days of the internet? No one really knew what it would turn into. It's had such a huge impact on our lives, but there have definitely been some downsides too.
Exactly. That's a perfect comparison. And just like with the internet, we really need to think about the big picture with quantum signatures, the societal impact, the ethical questions. We have to have those conversations now while we're still developing the technology.
I completely agree. It'd be a mistake to just jump headfirst into something this powerful without thinking about the consequences. Schneppat's essay is really a call to action for everyone, researchers, policymakers, everyday people, to be part of that conversation.
Absolutely. And I think for our listeners today, the main takeaway is that quantum signatures could change how we think about online security completely. It's a future with a lot of potential, but we need to develop it carefully, responsibly.
Well said. And a big thank you to Jorgar Schneppat for writing such a thought-provoking essay. It's given us a lot to think about.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of quantum signatures. It's been quite a journey, right?
It has. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.